And so what I saw was the power of the right platform changing an organization from a hoarding culture to a collaborative culture almost overnight.
At what point then in your life cycle did you switch to become like a community member?
Matt took the mic and introduced me to the entire crowd. So I got a small ovation because there are a lot of people who recognized my name from the community there, just didn't know I was there. It was really very fulfilling to feel afterwards when people came over to introduce themselves to me and say, "Oh, Andy, I see you in the community. I know who you are. Like we've interacted, and some product managers from Atlassian as well, and just people from the community."
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Summer of Atlassian. Today I have online Andy with me, also known as Andy Gladstone. He is a community leader and a really big fan, I guess. Cheerleader is what you have here, right? Cheerleader, not just of me, but of everything that happens here within the Atlassian ecosystem. So, Andy, I think you're just one of the greatest supporters, again, of this entire Atlassian community. So, I wanted to take some time here to get to know you a little bit better and dig deeper into why you're such a great cheerleader.
Thanks, Alex. Look forward to the conversation.
Thanks. Last night, not only did I feel like I got run over by a bus, but the whole night I was like, what do I ask Andy? Like, what should I ask him, right? Because I wanted to ask something interesting, right? And I wanted to start off swinging hard. I wanted to come out with a hard question, right? And I guess I want to first ask you, you're such a huge proponent of Confluence, right? It's one of the tools that you're the cheerleader for the most. And I feel like Confluence doesn't get a whole lot of love. So just maybe walk me through, like, why Confluence? Why do you love it so much?
Sure. I mean, it's a great question. I would dispute what you say about Confluence not getting a lot of love. I think that
My video views will challenge you otherwise.
yes, true. Well, your name is Alex Ortiz, Dr. Jira. It is not Dr. Confluence. I think you may get more views on your Confluence content if you pose yourself as a Confluence connoisseur.
Might consider it for future videos.
Yes. So why Confluence? So Confluence is really, to tell you why Confluence, I have to tell you the origin story about how I got to know what Atlassian is and got involved in Atlassian. My previous company that I had worked for 10 and a half years, so I worked there from 2006 to 2016, we had built our own internal wiki on a Red Hat Linux Apache server. And we'd hosted it internally in our own data center. And we had one admin on, not even our IT team, it was someone on our support logistics team who had an interest in all things IT, system administration, and decided to be the administrator of this system. And we built up a wiki which was all based on wiki markup language, internal, basically Wikipedia in our organization, hundreds of pages of content. And it was a very painful process. And the reason for that is that at that time, the way that we deployed required any contributor to know wiki markup language. So it's not like going into Wikipedia today and editing an article in Wikipedia. You had to know a specific type of markup language, which is not exactly HTML, but somewhat HTML-ish, to be able to contribute. So what wound up happening was we had a lot of people who had content to contribute, but weren't contributing it. And we had very few people who were actually creating the content within the wiki. That got built up over 2 to 3 years. And I believe it was probably about 2011, 2012, early 2012, this support logistics engineer left the company, and there was no one left to manage this wiki server. And it stagnated, and we knew the power of it because we had actually tied our internal CRM into the server to pull out articles for our support engineers to be able to feed up to people that they're working with on resolving issues. We were a third-party enterprise IT maintenance company, and we knew that we needed to move it off of that server, or we just was going to stagnate. We weren't going to get it updated. So we looked around, and for some reason I don't know why, but we landed on Basecamp for like 2 or 3 months in a trial period. Not a platform for knowledge base and collaboration as much as maybe project management. And we quickly went off of that and one of the people that was on the committee that was looking for a solution said, hey, let's try this Confluence from Atlassian. And it's also server based, so we'll host it in our own environment and we'll maintain and manage it. And it seems to be a lot easier. And from the moment that we installed it and we ported over all of that content, what happened was I saw that people were not such great contributors to the previous wiki. And one of the things that we did initially when we installed Confluence was we went and we deduplicated everyone's My Documents folder that was on, our Windows, 2008 server at the time, whatever it was, and took all of the technical documentation and created a library within Confluence. And what I thought would happen, because I was one of the people that led the charge on that, was we would have a revolt from our engineers. Like, it was very much an environment at the time of hoarding information, and people felt that their value was based on what they knew and what they had. And so you might have someone who had, let's say, a HP EVA 8100, installation document in their My Documents, and then with the 20 plus engineers in the organization, maybe 3 of them had it, but that meant 17 to 20 didn't, and that meant that those people were always either going to Google to find it or looking on the web. And when we deduplicated all those documents and created this library within Confluence, everyone was like super excited about it. Like, oh, this is great. And people started feeding us documents and technical specs and everything you could imagine to go into Confluence. And not only that, they started creating pages on their own, which they had never done in the wiki. All it takes is a small spark of people that want to be collaborative, that want to share their knowledge, to create a culture of sharing. And that's why Confluence, because a lot of other tools, Jira, Trello, maybe not Trello, Jira for sure, is a lot of people look at it as like that's a developer product and development tool. Confluence is for everybody. And that's why Confluence. That doesn't mean that I don't use Jira. It doesn't mean I don't use Trello or other, Atlassian tools or other third-party tools. But Confluence is the one that I've seen can change the face of an organization, and that's why.
That's such a great story, though. I'm so glad I asked, because I think it opens up a whole new perspective, because I use Confluence, but I kind of almost feel like I'm forced to use Confluence. But when you look at it from that perspective, it makes sense as to why to use Confluence. So I'm so glad I asked. Now, obviously, then you're coming in VP of some of the technology services here, and you're setting up Confluence. You're getting your team in there. At what point then in your life cycle did you switch to become like a community member? Like, when did you join the Atlassian community first?
Great question. So my first foray into the community was probably back in 2014, 2015. Jira, Confluence server was up and running, it was pumping. I probably had some questions about upgrades and updates that we had to do. And when the community at the time, the community was based on questions for Confluence, which happened to be an application that we had installed in our Confluence instance as well, which is just parenthetically was something that our president and CEO wanted done. And he saw what was going on within Confluence. Now, he wasn't involved in standing it up. He wasn't involved in really even contributing to it. But he saw us, like, he would walk past people's desks and be like, everyone's in this, same interface. What is it? It's Confluence. Oh, this is what we're using. He's like, I would love to do like pop quizzes. And I'm like, oh, there's an app for that. And so we installed Questions for Confluence, where he was able to like feed up questions about the industry, other things, and get input from all different people within the organization. So at the time,
that's what people want when they come to work, a pop quiz.
yeah. It was generally, it was light banter, but it was also, you saw a lot of what the company's direction was going to be based on the questions he was asking people. So it was also great to give that perspective. So I had created a community idea at the time, probably asked a couple questions, and then went stagnant for a couple of years. I left that organization in July of 2016. So I'm coming up on my 8 years at my current organization, Fidelity Payment Services, where I'm the Chief Operating Officer. And we brought in Confluence and Jira in 2018. So I was without it for about a year and a half until our current organization decided to change their development cycles to becoming, agile and based on Scrum, and bringing Jira and Confluence into the organization. And now we've got JPD, we've got Jira. We're now working with Beta and Compass for the organization as well, Confluence as well, obviously. And so I was using the community just to ask questions from that time, from when we installed in my new organization, we went directly to the cloud, right? And cloud was new to me. I still remember that first day, like being so excited to spin up the instance and be like, wait, this is not the way I remember it looking, right? Because I had used server for 5 years and it was definitely different looking. And sometime around late 2020, when the pandemic hit in 2020, I started to get involved in the virtual events that were being hosted by the New York City chapter, and started to realize, like, yeah, I've this. I also have an online persona. I should check out what's going on there. And I started to get a little bit more involved and getting involved in some of the Confluence questions, answering within the Confluence groups and product groups. And from there, it really literally snowballed. Like, I am a very driven person by competition. And so I wouldn't say I'm extremely competitive, but once I'm in a competition, I want to win. And
did you do the quiz whiz? You were doing the quiz whiz, right?
Yes, I was doing the quiz whiz.
How did you fare on the quiz whiz then?
We got out in the round of 16, I think, or the quarterfinals. Yeah, but again, Sajid will tell you from the quiz whiz, like I attend all of the quiz whizzes as a, not necessarily as a participant, but as a watcher, and he knows what his Slack messages look like for me. Like in the middle of quiz whizzes, I'm like answering questions quicker than the people that are being quizzed. But so I wouldn't say I'm highly competitive, but once I'm in a competition, I go all in. And the community, it's not competitive in like dog eat dog type of competition. It's competitive in that you can accrue different levels, and it's very gamified. And so I felt
kind of like the old Xbox gamer,
yes,
the points. I'm blinking out on them, right? But you used to get your points every time you unlocked an achievement, your gamer score on Xbox.
And from there, it really became something where like I felt like I had some knowledge and I had some expertise and I could give back. And it's outside of my industry. And I'll tell you, the industry that we're in, it's a fintech, it's in the payments industry. You don't really share a lot of knowledge in our industry. I mean, you come from defense, right? So like you don't go to industry conferences and really talk about like your secret sauce and what you do. You basically get general ideas. And here I could be extremely specific about use cases, and I could really share. And it became an altruistic expression for myself to be able to get like scratch that itch of being able to give back. And it's just snowballed from there. And I became a community leader in 2021, late 2021. Also, funny story how that happened, but it wasn't meant to be. I wasn't intending to become a community leader, but I did. And then because that opened up additional vistas for me. And yeah, it's just been my daily retreat from the day-to-day ever since.
But your involvement with the community today goes beyond what a normal person would consider a community member, right?
Yeah.
How did you get that inspiration that you would be, again, like that cheerleader for so many community members?
So a lot of it has to do with my own personal management style, the way I manage my people. Like I believe in elevate to delegate. Like you got to lift people up around you, and a lot of that is just positive reinforcement. And so a lot of my contribution in the community is commenting on other people's content and their own contributions. It's also answering questions. It's also adding my own expertise and subject matter expertise to the different areas. But a lot of it is also in like the more social aspects of the community, of trying to create like this tight-knit community where we get to know the online persona. And a lot of times the real life persona does come through the online persona, right? We're not just avatars on a screen. But many of us have our own picture there, right? And you get to know the personalities of the people. And I really enjoy just making those connections. And I happen to be the person that in person, I like to just sit in the corner. Right? As you know, Alex, that's how we met, right? And I don't want to be in the center of anything. And I certainly don't want to be the center of attention. But I feel a little bit more unbridled online, where I could express myself more. And, that goes back to the fact that I have one of my true loves, prior to Confluence, is writing. I enjoy the art of writing. I enjoy the art of pulling ideas together and putting them into writing and expressing them that way. And obviously, the online community is all text based, right? I mean, memes and text, but like, you have to. We're not leaving each other voice notes on the community, right? So I get to express myself that way, and that's something that I've always like. Once I get a pen and a paper, it just flows, and so it just flows in the community, and it's the same way. And I have specific times of the day that I set aside for community work, so that way it doesn't distract from my day job. I have a commute on the train every morning and every afternoon. As you know, I join the Jira Life every Thursday afternoon from the train. It's always from the same place. And I use that time to catch up on email with work, but also to catch up on what's going on in the community and to go around and post. And an extension of that has been the Creators Program, where now we're also interacting not just in community.atlassian.com, but on LinkedIn and other platforms as well.
But again, your involvement and still goes deeper than that. Like as I'm looking over your shoulder there, you got a few books there, and I take it they're not your books.
Not ones I wrote. No, I'm not Alex Ortiz. Yeah, so it goes a little bit deeper in the books, right? I've got my award from the 2023, and then I've got Bob Wen's book on Safe for DevOps practitioners. I don't use Safe. I'm not a DevOps practitioner, but he's a community personality that went out of his way to write a book. And I'm going to support that. So I purchased the book. He should, get a couple bucks in his pocket, whatever royalties he gets on the book sales. I guess you'll find out soon what that looks like.
I know, right?
Splitting between 4 authors, I'm not exactly sure you're going to get a lot.
What an endeavor that has been. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, then I've got Implementing Atlassian Confluence, by Aaron, and that's a book that came out earlier in 2023.
After, no? 23, I think.
Yeah, 2023. And again, that's a Confluence-based book. I read that one cover to cover myself.
Of course.
And then Supercharging Productivity with Trello from Brittany Joyner, who is someone that, again, I would have never come across had I not been involved in the Atlassian community, who we have formed an extremely deep connection. She's like my surrogate sister almost. We call like each other, I'm our big brother. She's my little sister to a certain extent. We have nothing, really almost nothing in common when you look at us, like Orthodox Jewish guy from New York, girl from Louisiana. Like it's nothing in common, but yet we have like the best time when we get together and we talk, and we have Zoom meetings throughout the year.
Yeah. Turns out you're an amazing tech reviewer.
Yeah, and I was a peer reviewer for that book as well, and then Essential Scrum, because when we moved from our previous, I won't even call it waterfall, but like, just chaos environment of development into an agile Scrum, that was the book that helped me understand how teams were going to run internally. So and then like, I like to invest in the people in the community as well. So I'm a sponsor, I think Jeremy Go in the Jira Life. And I've set aside a small fund, not anything huge, to use towards supporting community members that are trying to I don't want to use the word monetize is not such a great word, but that are utilizing their skills that we see in the community for the greater good, but have to charge for that in order to be able to continue to do it.
And I want to talk about two things about that stuff, right? So first of all, I don't know how much feedback you ever get back, right? But just knowing that Andy's there during a live stream makes it worth it, right? Because at least during team, when we were at Team 23, right? Team 24 this year, we were just kind of like talking, right? We had no idea who was going to show up. Our hours were completely different when we were doing that. And just seeing you online and watching, like, it made all the difference, right? Like, it just feels like we always know Andy's there to watch, right? And it's just, and I don't say that lightly, right? Like, I say that as a very impactful for us as content creators, right? Because I always tell people, like, half the time when I'm recording these videos, I'm just yelling into this little peephole on my computer, right? This little camera. Although I do actually have a mirrorless camera that I record on my actual videos with. But still, like, if it's a very lonely job to create content, right? And when you're brainstorming ideas and you're coming up with whatever it is you're gonna teach the world of Atlassian on, it's a very alone, very just, I don't even know who's gonna watch it, right? But to see you come in and like and comment and reshare, right, and even monetarily support us, right? Like it's very impactful for us as creators, and I'm sure you as a creator as well too, right? But I just want to say thanks for that.
I appreciate that, and knowing it definitely helps. But again, like I said, it goes back to sort of like my general approach to people and my management style is to really try and show that support to give the people the confidence that they need to be able to get the job done. So
And then the second thing that I wanted to dig deeper on, right, and it kind of goes back to the big brother little sister thing with
Brittany,
Brittany. Sorry, I am not 100% here. Right, but going back with that whole big brother, right? Like I think every time that I post something, or every time that I'm doing something for the Atlassian community, it's like a what would Andy say about this? And and I know that you and I have had a walk on the beach, and I've kind of talked to you a little bit about it, right? But I think you do help set a standard for, are we doing this from an authentic perspective, right? Like, are we doing this for the greater good, or are we doing this for like a financial gain, right? And I think a lot of the time, whenever I'm doing something, or pondering on an idea, or I'm creating something, I always have like Andy's voice like on the back of my mind. It's like, is this for that reason, right? Are you doing this for the right reasons? And I don't know, again, how much influence you think you have on people's minds subconsciously, but just want to let you know that subconsciously, you're right there, just making sure that, again, we stay authentic and we stay true to what the community represents.
I appreciate that. I'm glad it sounds positive. If you have to go to therapy for it, I'm not paying the bills.
No,
But thank
no,
you.
definitely.
I appreciate you sharing that sentiment, and it really talks to just the general community. I'll tell you a quick story. Yesterday, so Peter Vandervoort, who is a OG community member. I mean, he was a Atlassian, and then he left Atlassian, went to MongoDB for a couple of years. Now he's back in the Atlassian ecosystem, and he's got a consultancy, and he's helping marketplace partners that are like on the smaller end of the scale to really improve their go-to-market strategies. He's from Belgium. He is in New York City for 2 weeks. We got together yesterday for lunch, and then we happened to go to an event that Lauren Siegel, who is the head of the creator community, had pointed us towards that was open in New York. And Ray Foote, another creator, also was there. And she and I knew we were both going to be there. And then when Peter was in town and I was getting together with Peter for lunch, anyway, that day I said, like, why don't you come along to this social media creator event. And at the end of the event, we were the three of us were talking, and we were talking to the person who was coordinated the event from Sprout Social, Greg. I can't remember his last name, and it wasn't easy to pronounce either, so I probably would have botched it anyway. And he was like, he's like, this is crazy, like this online community, it's so great, and like the events community. I said, listen, like there are people. Ray lives in New York City. She's from California. She lives in New York City. I know you know Ray very well. She and I had not crossed paths very much before. She wasn't really involved in the community until she became a creator. And we've seen each other 3 times in the last month. So I said to Greg, I'm like, Ray is someone who I only know because of the community. I have spent more time with her in the last month than I have any of my, what I would call nuclear friends. Like you have your nuclear family or close family that lives in your house. My nuclear friends, the people that I'm like, really close friends with, that live in my community, that I have not spent as much time with them in the last month as I have with Ray, because Ray and I have been at 3 separate events together that were all because of Atlassian. We had a New York City ACE event earlier in the month. Then we had the Atlassian for Startups announcement that we were invited to at the Atlassian office to attend as part of, I guess, media, so quote unquote. And we had this event yesterday, and that just talks about like the community building and the people that you meet, and just the reach that the community has. I mean, you and I hope I'm not taking away from any questions you have. So let me just tell another story real quick for everybody. Yeah. Victoria Bosora, who is one of the community support engineers or logistics engineers. I'm not exactly sure her title is. But she's one of the people that works on the community team that really
From
does.
Atlassian, but she works at Atlassian.
Yeah. Oh, Atlassian. I'm sorry. Yeah, correct. I apologize. So Victoria from Atlassian, who's on the community team, who also happens to be based in New York, but she herself is originally from Bulgaria. she wrote an article in the community around this time last year, said events around all year in the community. And she was sort of highlighting the different events that go on throughout the year. You have the big events like Team, which is the biggest event. Then you have like you had Unleash and you had High Velocity and you had the work management events, and those things were separate events. And then she was also talking about like the fact that there's so many different chapters, ACE chapters, events chapters. Now, I am not an events leader, but I am an events attendee, right? And I took the article and I said to myself, I'm like, there's a lot of opportunities to go to other ACE events that are not just in New York. And I love the New York chapter, and shout out to Dilip and Kapil and Madhu. And Kapil won the Leader's Choice Award this year, the award that I had won last year at the team dinner. And they do a fantastic job with the programming, and I love every second of working with them. And they include myself and Dave Liao a little bit in like some of the planning. We get to see what's going on behind the scenes. We get a little bit of VIP treatment, and we also give in return. We help out with the setups and things like that, but we're not responsible for anything, right? So I made this plan that I was going to go to one remote ACE event per quarter over the next year. I put that in place for Q4 of 2023, and actually joined Brittany in Alexandria, Virginia for the Northern Virginia event. Mark Kruth was presenting, Brittany was presenting, she was presenting on Trello and her book. And because I was a peer reviewer, I thought it would be great. We got together there. I took the train down to Washington, D.C., took a day off from work, worked for 4 hours on the train, then took the rest of the day off, went a little bit of museum and monument hopping in Washington, D.C., got together with Brittany for coffee a couple hours before the event, got together with Mark as well. So we had a lot of coffee before the event. So you can imagine what Brittany and Mark are on, like a lot of coffee before an event. And we had this great time, and I loved it. And I got to meet all these people that are Atlassian fans that are from that chapter. Fast forward to this past
Monday, no?
Well, I'm sorry.
Monday or Tuesday, no, this week?
Oh no, I'm going to go to the time. So I had a conference in San Diego earlier this year. I think in mid-February it was. And I said, okay, great. I'm flying into it was in Laguna Niguel, which is not San Diego. It's about 60 miles north of San Diego. I was going to fly into San Diego. I said, what can I do during this time to get together with some Atlassians? So I flew into San Diego, met up with Mark Livingston, who's also an OG, one of the original Atlassian events leaders, who I know from the Atlassian community, who lives in San Diego.
He's my first community leader that I ever met and went to.
Yep.
His way back in like 2017. So
yeah, and he's been running events since 2008. I think. We got together for a coffee, drove another 20-30 miles up the coast, met with you and your family. Right, we had a great walk out on the pier in Oceanside, which was beautiful.
Which caught on fire recently. I don't know if you heard.
Oh, really? Okay. The first place I ever got to see a pelican.
Yeah, that building at the end, it like lit up.
Yeah. Oh God, that's horrible. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad we got there beforehand.
Yeah.
So I, even though this conference was taking place, I planned a lot of the trip around being able to get together with people that I've only met through this community. In January.
But why do you do that though? Because that's like, I wish there were more people like you.
Yeah. So I think there's a kinship in the community that you don't have. I have a lot of personal connections, obviously my own. I mean, a lot of. I have a couple friends, right, of my own that have nothing to do with Atlassian in the community, nothing to do with my work. I have my work friends and work colleagues, right, the people you spend most of your time with. And then I have this whole group of other people who I am the only one that looks like me among this group, right, and yet I feel a kindred spirit with them a little bit more than the people that I'm, I don't want to say forced, but the people that I work with are, those are my professional colleagues. We don't like hang out after work together, but I'm hanging out all day with these people. There's a Slack channel, there's, the community. And I feel that I've made some really deep personal connections there. I skipped over the fact that in January, I went to Toronto for a day. Jimmy Seddon's from Toronto, Susan Halthus from Toronto, Danny Zuccaro. They were running a community-led conference that I went to. That was my Q1 conference. My Q2 conference was earlier this week in San Francisco, and I flew out to San Francisco. I've always wanted to go out there. It was being held at the Atlassian headquarters in the U.S. Matt Doerr and Vish Reddy are both amazing people. I met Matt in a very similar way to the way I met you in 2022, which was my first team conference. I was already checked out of my room because I take the red eye back from Vegas to New York on Thursday night, and I wasn't going to Bash. Um, I was just sitting in the lobby working at the Venetian in this huge, cavernous lobby, which started to empty out because they were taking down everything that had any Atlassian
They didn't
signage.
have it this year. I was so surprised.
Yeah, they did not have the pod in the lobby, but and Matt came over and just sat next to me and we started talking. I'd seen Matt in the community from some of his contributions, but we had never like really met in person and spent an hour just shooting the breeze together and talking about our lives. And I got to hear about his life story and my life story, and we're both religious people, and like we got to share our different views on life and love and everything that has happened to us as people. Fast forward a year, I get to meet Alex Ortiz, right? I had heard of you, I had seen you
in the same cavern.
in the same cavern, right? As everyone was leaving the conference and getting ready to go to Bash, you had, I guess, no place to go at the time, and I was already checked out, so I was just sitting there getting some work done, and we wound up just having a conversation and picking up, and from there,
Wait, did you go home after Bash?
I did not go to Bash. I went straight to the airport for red eye, right? And
really, I thought so. You didn't even make it to the Bash that day.
That day I did not. No, this year I made it to Bash for the first half hour, 45 minutes, and then here you can see proof I was there, right? I don't even know if it works anymore.
That's I never thought that you I was like, why in the world would you wait then?
This year because I get partially because I came late to team because of Passover. I felt like I just wanted to stay a little bit longer and get to hang with everybody. I also felt like the fact that you didn't have to be in the middle of everything because they had those cabanas for everybody to be in made it like a little bit more comfortable for me not to.
Yeah, I actually like that they had the cabanas this year because there was so much noise happening outside. Right, it was nice that for the community leaders you had a place to sit down and. Although
so I just finished telling you about this event. So this week I went to San Francisco, and I took my own personal time off to do it. And I work a lot of the time off anyway. There's nobody that completely disconnects anymore. But flew into San Francisco Monday morning from JFK in New York. Spent the day on Monday doing like some touristy stuff. I rented an e-bike. I walked down to the Fisherman's Wharf. I went to the e-bike. I went over the Golden Gate Bridge. I went to Sausalito. I came back. I went to.
And you're still in one piece.
Yeah. Went to Pier 39 and saw the sea lions.
You did the whole San Francisco thing.
Yeah.
I went and I got in. I got out. That's all I did when I went last time.
And Tuesday, so Tuesday night was the event. So Tuesday morning, I got some work done. I had actually a meeting with an Atlassian from Austin via Zoom at the Atlassian office. I got to the Atlassian office because I had checked out of the hotel already. Then I took BART train to Berkeley to meet Monique Vandenberg, who is the head of the online communities, senior manager of online community and programming. And we had brunch together. She had she had some food. We got coffee and brunch. There was no kosher places there, so I just had a coffee. Came back to San Francisco, met up with Philip Braddock, who is now the head of Atlassian for Startups, and we did an interview together. And then I spent my afternoon just popping between different people in the Atlassian office, having conversations and getting some work done, and then helping to set up for this event. Matt was very, very kind at the event. The event was extremely well attended. Over 125 people were there. They had a great speaker lineup. And while Marshall Walker Lee was in the middle of changing slides, Matt took the mic and introduced me to the entire crowd. So I got a small ovation because there are a lot of people who recognized my name from the community there, just didn't know I was there. It was really very fulfilling to feel afterwards when people came over to introduce themselves to me and say, "Oh, Andy, I see you in the community. I know who you are. Like we've interacted, and some product managers from Atlassian as well, and just people from the community." And so, I don't know. I guess it's like the social life I never had finally coming together.
It's interesting you say that. Yeah, I've been to the SF office, and I kind of feel bad that I know you had pinged me earlier, and you're like, "Are you gonna go?" And I'm like, I wasn't planning on it, but now maybe I might have to do extra efforts to get there. It's a 45-minute flight for me to get up to the Bay.
Yeah.
from where I'm at. And fortunately, now I live like 10 minutes from an airport, so I can get in and out
Where
real
you're by
quickly.
John Wayne, or what airport are you
I
by?
moved to Ontario I'm by Ontario's airport.
Okay.
Yeah, I like if I turn right out of my street, my street ends at the airport. So
I used to do the flight from LAX to Santa Barbara with my old company, which was bought by a company based in Santa Barbara. So for 19 months, I was going there, 1 week a month, basically.
where have you not been in the United States, Andy?
I haven't been to a lot of places. This is the truth. It's just that it sounds like I traveled a lot because my previous company was a global third-party IT maintenance company. So, we had an office in Amsterdam, we had an office in Singapore. So I'd been to both those offices. The headquarters was in Santa Barbara, California. So I spent a lot of time there after they had purchased my company. Not my company. I didn't own it, but the company that I had worked for, which is a much smaller company. Yeah, but. I mean, listen, it's a lot of red eyes. As an Orthodox Jew, and I have to be home in time for Shabbos. Very often, I don't stay anywhere on a Friday. So the last flight out on a Thursday night is usually the flight I'm on. But it's worth it, and it's something that my wife is very supportive of, and I appreciate very much from her. That she knows I need these outlets, and that they're healthy outlets. There's a lot of men in their mid-40s who don't have very healthy outlets. I have cycling and the Atlassian community, and those two actually have some overlap as well, because there are a number of cyclists within the Atlassian community. So I've become connected with them on Strava or Zwift. So it's very personally fulfilling for me, and that's really what I
know. I did not know you were a cyclist.
Yeah. I mean, I don't look like one, so that's why you didn't think I had one.
No, I just would never. For as much as we communicate, right, and we share about each other's lives, like, it's still interesting to learn new little things about people.
I don't post a lot about it anywhere else. And maybe I'll have an anecdote on it in the community, or you're not going to see a LinkedIn post about me cycling. I try to use LinkedIn for professional purposes only.
Unless Atlassian does like a world tour one day on a bike.
We've been trying to convince them to, because they're based in Sydney, and Sydney has a very large cycling culture. So I would love to eventually get out to in the office, which is not going to be a 2-day trip, would never be a 2-day trip. Takes 2 days just to get there, and do some cycling in that area. I have a couple of friends in Melbourne, which is nowhere near Sydney, obviously, but that are also cyclists, very, very avid cyclists. So using Confluence to plan a cycling trip, as Joanna Thurman actually highlighted in her slide deck at Team, to do a 5-day bikepacking trip. So those two are two loves intersecting there.
So we might have to set something up then, because I don't know. Obviously, Team next year is in Anaheim, but from Newport Beach, right at the beach, there's a river, the Santa Ana River, and that one's a very popular cycling path where it's, I don't know, 20, 30 miles of just river.
It's funny you should say that.
Are you planning on doing something on the Santa Ana River?
I'm going to see if I can open it up. Give me a second. Give me a moment here. Let me find my route.
You're going to have a route already too? Anaheim is such an opposite city of Las Vegas. I think for being outdoorsy, you'll be able to see a lot more of the city on a bike than. Although I will say that it's more of a car city. You'll want a car when you come to Anaheim.
Yeah. So if you could see my screen now, so you see I've already planned 3 different routes for Team 25. So we'll open this one, and this one here. So I think you're referring to, that's Climber's Delight. So this is going to take us, I have to switch what I'm presenting. Give me a second. Slide. Give me.
I think it'll be that's third one there, that 44-mile one.
Yeah, give me a moment. I'm going to present differently here. I have to share the actual.
I can't believe you're actually thinking about it already too, though. That's the best.
Yeah, part. The second that they announced it, so I did this one. So so here, this is a Climber's Delight. This is like a real rough one. This will take you up into the mountains.
Yeah.
This is I think the one that you may have been referring to.
That's what I'm talking. Yeah, the from Orange going down to Newport. Yeah, that's exactly the one I'm talking about.
Out to Seal Beach and back, and then this is just along the this whole pathway here is along the Santa Ana River. Yeah,
the Santa Ana River, but you can keep going up, right? You can. You're picking it up I don't like almost like I wouldn't say the midpoint, but it's towards the tail end of that river. It goes on for a long time.
This one's 44 miles, and so the way I plan them is, I mean, 3 hours and 43 minutes. It won't take me 3 hours and 43 minutes. It's based on like someone going, I don't know, 10 miles per hour, not 10 miles per hour, like maybe 12, 13. I try and plan them like this would be the one that I would do the first day before any programming. So be out on the bike for 2.5, 3 hours that day. This is a shorter one that I could do one morning. So again, similar going out along.
That's going up the river a little bit. So my new house is right on where that reservoir is at the right side.
On the right side.
You see that large body of water on that far right side? No, you got to zoom out.
Zooming in on?
Zoom out. No, you got to zoom out. Yeah. There's a large body of water on the far right. Yeah.
Prado Basin.
Yeah. I live right above that now.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So we could go out to you. We could ride out.
Yeah, I'm straight up. Yeah, I'm straight up from there. So that's where I live now. But then my parents live in Anaheim. So I'll be staying in Anaheim the whole time for Team 25.
Yeah, so that's and I've already shared these routes with a couple other cyclists from the community and said like let's do it. And Team 22, I brought my bike out to, and I rode every day, and it was fantastic. I loved it. Every morning I would go out. I do 25 to 30 miles every morning. The first day, I flew in on a Sunday, and I did a huge ride out in Red Rock and Calico Basin. Like a 55-mile ride, which is beautiful that day. And then each morning, I'm an East Coaster, so my body's waking me up at 5 o'clock in the morning anyway.
Anyways, yeah, you're early. But yeah. I'll ask you the same question I asked Stu from Revise. I'm clocking in 20,000 steps at Team every day. How do you have energy to do Team and to knock out an easy breezy 44-mile ride?
A lot of coffee. It's a lot of coffee. Yeah, you have to. I mean, one of the things I'm looking forward to actually with it being in Anaheim is that it's a different environment, and one of the issues when you go to Vegas, you don't leave the hotel for many reasons, but you don't want to leave the hotel anytime in the day. It's dry, it's hot. I'm looking forward to a different climate to be in and to enjoy a little bit more, and I'm hoping that will help with the energy as well.
Yeah, I've been talking to a few people, right? Anaheim's such a more family-oriented vibe, a lot more Hispanic culture as well. So I'm kind of looking forward to taking people to eat real tacos that clearly are not sandwiches. Because I'm going to challenge any of my buddies to go to a real taqueria and ask them for a sandwich and see what reaction they get. But yeah, it's definitely much more family-oriented. I've been telling my wife that I don't know how I would do this, and I want to speak with someone at Atlassian, right? But unlike Vegas, where it's not really family oriented, like my wife was stuck in the hotel room the whole time when she went this time, right, with the kids. But I'm assuming that a lot of families are going to want to, or a lot of attendees are going to probably want to bring their spouses and children to do a day or two at the parks, because Disneyland is right across the street, right? And so I was telling my wife, like, maybe we should figure out a way to like charter, because there's like Newport Beach and like Seal Beach and all the different beaches, right? And it'd be interesting to do like a spouses charter where like one spouse is attending the conference, but the other spouse and the kids are seeing Orange County, right? Seeing Orange County, LA County, go up to the observatory, Hollywood sign, all that stuff like within an hour drive.
I mean, it would be great if the people that are planning the event, and if they watch us and hear this, if they do plan, whether it's discounted, tickets or like itineraries for families. Like if you're coming to Team 25 and you're bringing family members, here are the options for your family members during the day while you're busy at the conference, right?
You're right. And there's a lot more to do here that's family friendly versus Vegas.
I would never want to bring I don't want to be in Vegas. I don't want my children to be in Vegas. Like I as just a human being, I don't like being in Vegas. As a religious Jewish man, I definitely don't like being in Vegas. It's like a necessary evil, and unfortunately, because all of the major conferences take place there, you're there. I'm there 2-3 times a year sometimes, and it's never enjoyable. I mean, it's a necessary evil to for your career, for what you're doing,
right?
And there's nothing that I would consider family friendly at all.
Right. So. Yeah, no, we walked the strip on Sunday with my sister-in-law joined us and my wife and my kids, right? But we're holding, clutching real tightly to the kids, making sure that they were with us the whole time, and trying to keep their eyes away from certain sites.
Exactly.
And my son's like 12 years old, so he's like, why are there like women that are dressed like that out here? And I'm like, this is Vegas. They call it Sin City for a reason.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, definitely being in Orange County, I think is going to be a much better vibe, especially again being more family friendly. Yeah. I will have to put out a guide on where not to go at night so that you don't end up in a body bag guide, though.
Okay.
Because the area, believe it or not, the area around Disneyland is very, very, it's rough. Disneyland, you wouldn't know about it, right? But being a local, like, it's pretty rough. It gets. You don't want to be in the wrong place at the wrong time there. It'll do a number on you.
I hear you.
But anyway, so a couple more minutes here that we have together. One last question that I had for you, Andy, and I don't know if this will take us the whole time, but I'm open to chat a little bit more, right? But I want to talk to you about that remote thing, right? Like you were attending these remote events, right? Out of your own time, out of your own like budgets and stuff, your own PTO. How are you balancing out being a COO and being so involved in the Atlassian community? Do you have like a Venn diagram of what that looks like? Do you ever see one favoring one side over the other? Like, what's your long-term game or game with this?
Yes. Can I add one more piece into that? So the fact that I'm also a creator. So that added like another circle into this Venn diagram that you're referring to, right? So I used to have like, just 2 loops intersecting. Now I have a third loop, maybe a fourth loop even. It's difficult. I'll be honest. It takes a lot of personal discipline and resilience. I've learned that I have to set aside times for the day where I don't look at community whatsoever. And I also set aside times during the day where I'm only looking at community. So I've time boxed myself with a lot of the community. Yeah.
I would also say you got to add your religion as the fourth.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the religion, that would be the fourth one. That'd be like life and just general, life, family, right? It takes a lot of personal discipline. I try not to, when I'm in the office, I try very, very hard to do anything I can to remove the distraction that the community can become for me. And it's a good distraction for me, but it's not a good distraction for my productivity in my company. So I've set up like, community notifications. Anything that comes via email goes into its own folder. I don't look at that folder throughout the day. I look at it on the train. I look at it at home. I don't look at it in the office. I try not to go down that rabbit hole. So that's communication coming out of the online community. Then there's a Slack community. So within Slack, because I have Slack open on my screen all day, it is a separate space. So I'm not in it. I'm in my main Fidelity Payment Services space. But I'll see the number of notifications that are piling up there. I know that looking at a Slack message is going to take me 20 seconds to look at, to digest, and to move on. So like once an hour, I'll take 2 or 3 minutes just to look and see what's going on, see if there's anything that needs my input. Nothing needs my input, let me be clear. That I feel like I want to provide input on, and just move on. And then like it's like a quick in and out. And so that's how I manage those 2 potential distractions that are there. And then there's now bringing in creators. So creators has created, no pun intended, a bit of a distraction for me away from community. And I've found that I'm a little bit lamenting the amount of time that I put into creators. But what I've done with creators is I've tried to actually channel my inner Alex Ortiz and do better content planning. Meaning that I set aside specific times, usually on weekends, on a Sunday, to pump out the posts that I'm going to do and just set it and forget it. So this week, because I was very busy on Sunday, but I knew I was taking off Monday afternoon at, I ate dinner at 3:00 in San Francisco because my body was telling me at 6:00, and I'd been up since 1 a.m. Pacific time to go to because I was up at 4 in New York.
Yeah, it'll do a number to you, these 3-hour time changes.
And it happens to be only one kosher restaurant in San Francisco, and it happens to be right around the block from the Atlassian office, and I stayed a block from there, right in the financial district in Chinatown. And so I picked up dinner. I ate dinner. I went back to my hotel room. This was after I did this bike ride. I showered. I relaxed a little bit, checked my emails from work and everything. Then I went down to the hotel bar where I'm comped drinks because it's an Omni hotel, and I stay in that hotel whenever I go to Montreal. So I had points. So even though you said it comes out of my pocket, a lot of times I use points for these trips. So I'm not really paying a lot of additional for them. And I sat with a Corona beer. So a man from Corona with a Corona. And over
I'm not
2
a
hours,
beer guy, but it's Vin Diesel's drink of choice, right?
over 2 hours, I just pumped out all the content that I needed for JSM June, and I went through all of my outstanding notifications from the community, and got it done. So by time boxing things, I'm getting better, more disciplined at being able to focus on my main role, which is the most important role that I have, which is as a COO of a fintech company, which is very busy, very successful, thank God. And it's taught me a lot of personal discipline as well, because this is the first time I think in my career that I've had something which is also a professional pursuit that doesn't align directly with my role in the company. So like cycling doesn't take away from, I'm not going to be on a bike during work time. Like it just doesn't like I can't.
Yeah,
unless
you work at Google, because Google has those bikes that you can have meetings on.
Yeah, so for a little while, I actually had a stationary bike set up in my office. Just aside, because you mentioned it, before the pandemic, I had my outdoor bike on an indoor trainer in my office, and I used to try and take conference calls and just soft pedal on the bike to get a little bit of exercise, and nothing major, but like, and then the pandemic hit, and then everything was on Zoom, and you can't be on the bike anymore when you're on Zoom, because like it was a difference having a headset, putting this on, right, and being on a bike and nobody knowing or seeing you is completely different than you being on the bike right now
and
with
people
you. Like
seeing you.
just not the same experience. So so it's the first time I've had a professional pursuit that has potentially misaligned with my professional goals. And so so I've learned to be very disciplined and to time box, and it takes a lot of discipline because I know there's a lot going on, and the community operates 24/7. Like people that I have become close friends within the community, Sajit Nair, right? He's in India. If we want to communicate, he's 11 hours ahead of me. It's going to be during my workday.
It's got to be more than that, no? Because I'm 12 hours from him. So it's got to be like
so maybe it's
8.
less. So maybe
8?
it's less. Yeah, 8.
Yeah.
I think depending on the time of year, but
9. They sometimes it's 13 hours for me, 13 and a half, or sometimes it's 12 and a half.
Yeah. Andy Barker, he's in Rotterdam, and so he's 5 hours ahead. And people on the West Coast, yourself, right? Others that are all around the world.
I'm waking up at 5 a.m. to have a chat with you.
I appreciate you doing it at 5 a.m. your time. So it does take a lot of personal discipline, and there are meetings that sometimes take place during the workday, and I will box those out to make sure that they're not interfering with my workday. I'm part of the community advisory board as well. We have the first Thursday of every month at 12 noon Eastern. We have our meeting, so that's set aside on my calendar, so it doesn't distract away. And then a lot of the live learning, which you've been doing, right? So kudos to you for pumping it out. And like I said yesterday on the Jira beginner, I'm still a beginner, even though I've attended many Jira beginner.
You've been to all of them.
A lot of, but I'm not actively participating in those. I'm getting work done while it's playing on another screen, and I'm listening and I'm absorbing. And so the same way that I listen to music while I work, it becomes the music that I work to.
Right.
And I just gain a little bit more by picking up tidbits there. So yeah, the answer is it's not simple. It's not easy. I have to be very disciplined about it. And the people that I work with, know that I am very involved in the community. They've heard me talk about it, and they're supportive enough of it, and know that I try and make sure that I use my personal time for it and not my professional time for it.
See, and you thought last year when I asked you to be on my Summer of Atlassian, you're like, I have nothing interesting to talk about.
I had nothing interesting to talk about. I'll be honest, this is not interesting. I don't know why you'll get 0 views on this. Maybe like people who we're friends with will like just click on it, because there's a
to watch
thumbnail.
it.
But yeah, I don't think I have anything. To be honest, like that's part of it is I don't think I have anything special, different than anybody else in the community. I think the community is a very outgoing, altruistic platform. And having been parts of other communities, which I will not name because we don't need to get the ire of other large SaaS, companies that are very elitist. That everyone's in there just to be able to get you to charge you for their advice. There are people like yourself, like Rodney, like Bob, like everyone else, really. I mean, Brittany, Mike Day, right? People who are Trello aficionados, people who are like Jira, the Dr. Jira and the Jira guy, people who know Confluence like the back of their hand, people who know Bitbucket, who are just giving up free advice in the community, right? And it doesn't hurt you, and it does, and maybe for some people, might take away from the bottom line. You could probably, charge people for consulting on some of the answers you could possibly give in, but people don't, and that's an amazing thing. And I think that really speaks to why this community is so powerful and so strong, is because I think most people are there to give and not to get, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, and then to close things out, obviously you've been a seasoned community leader here for a while, very active in the Atlassian community. What would you say to somebody that's on community.atlassian.com and they have that "I'm new here" badge? Like, what would you tell them? Like, any words of inspiration for them, or
so I actually
for them when they're new?
Yeah, I actually have a script that I keep in Confluence for depending on. So I have a Confluence space sandbox that I set up so it's a premium Confluence space because we are on premium, and I set up a separate sandbox to do a lot of my content creation in, and I save a lot of if I'm writing an article on community, I'll build it in there and then I'll just copy and paste in the community. So one of the things I tell anybody that's new is it will depend on where I see them, right? So if they're in the new to Jira collection, right, or the new to Confluence collection, I'll tell them, first of all, congratulations on joining the Atlassian community. This is just the beginning of the journey, but it's going to be an enjoyable one. Here are ways that you can optimize the community, and I'll give them. I generally have 3 different bullet points. One is specific groups to join and follow. So if you're new to Jira, are you new to Jira because it's Jira Service Management? Are you new to Jira because you're using Jira software, right? Join the group that you are here for, so that way you can learn from the questions that are asked.
To what you need, yeah, that makes sense.
That's number 1. Number 2, Atlassian University. I will give them a link to Atlassian University with the courses that are like the new to Jira style or new to Confluence style, like getting started with Jira, getting started with Confluence, right? And then I will tell them who to follow on LinkedIn or outside the community that will enhance their community experience. So Jira, you got to follow Ape Tech tutorials. You got to follow, subscribe to Jira Guys newsletter. Confluence, I'll give them. So I want them to know, though, that I always sign off with, like, please ask questions, contribute. The more you give, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out of it. And that's why I tell everybody, don't make it transactional. Don't just come in here to ask a question. Some people have to just come in and ask a question. That's fine, But if you really want to be part of the community, get involved. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And this is sort of like a drum that I've been beating with the community advisory board a little bit, which is I want to see more people with the community leader tag asking questions of community, because I feel that we have our own private space that we could like sort of talk in, like there's a Slack channel, technical questions, right? And I feel like a lot of us sometimes will default to asking a question there instead of going to community, but that we suffer for 2 reasons when we do that. One is we deny the community the information that you can get from learning from that question that's asked, right? The second thing is we deny the community the ability to see that community leaders are also vulnerable. We also have questions. And so I've made it my own personal goal that I don't ask anything in technical questions on the Slack channel unless I've already posted it in the community. And maybe I'll just say, hey, could someone help me out with this community post, right? But I want it to be in the community. So recently I had a question. I can't even remember what it was. There was something with the editor in Trello or Jira. I'd have to look it up even. But I knew that I'm going to ask this to the community and give everyone the opportunity to see that, hey, community leaders, you also don't know everything, right? And so that's why I want people to that are I'm new here to know that every person that's in this community at one point was new here too. And that's it.
Awesome. Well, Andy, thank you so much. I want to say, first of all, thanks again for coming on. I know it took me a while to get you, but I got you.
Sorry that I played hard to get.
And I'm less scared of you now, just a little bit.
Like I told you, we all put our pants on one leg at a time.
I'll never forget that. But on the bright side, I did finally got a chance to meet both the co-founders. So, yay!
Not just meet them. Yeah, that was a big splash. So I think that it was well deserved your award at the community leaders, the community champions dinner this past year.
Yeah.
And just seeing the content that you're putting out and what you're doing for the community, evangelizing Atlassian and its products and the community as well. I like the fact that we've created another way for people to engage in the community without having to specifically be on community.atlassian.com, and that we've expanded it out to YouTube and to LinkedIn and other areas. And,
that's pretty key. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Andy. Well, have a great day. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Have a great summer. Summer of Atlassian.